Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel for my second video. This video is going to be about my very first boyfriend that I had when I was 17, and there's a lot that went on, a lot of just crazy things that I had to experience, a lot of lessons learned from getting my car impounded because of him, and just all the stress that was involved with dating him. I'm not gonna say it was all bad, but definitely wasn't all good, so stay tuned. So I met who I'm going to refer to as Swoopy Whoopy. That was my nickname for him in 2002. The end of 2002, when I had started my senior year of high school. And I felt like it was fate and like the stars aligned and everything for me to meet this cute boy outside a convenience store buying a beer at the age of 19, and sadly I didn't feel like that was a warning sign. But you know, you're young and kids are experimenting with that kind of thing. I was very blessed with the fact that I was not a big peer pressure person. For the most part, like, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke weed, like, all those things didn't appeal to me. My freaking curse was just bad relationships. So speaking of which, this one wasn't a great start for me. I think if nothing else, I learned a lot of lessons, but I feel like too, maybe I just wasn't in the best of place emotionally and spiritually. If you guys watched my last video, you guys know who homeboy is, and that whole situation was so traumatic that I feel like I was definitely grasping for, you know, a way out of that, somebody to distract me from it. And not to say that, you know, he was a rebound person or anything, because he definitely wasn't. We ended up dating for 3 years off and on, so it definitely wasn't all bad, but there was really some tough moments. And like I said, my experience that I had prior to this, so the guy I lost my virginity to, I guess made me more vulnerable, I would say. And I really feel like I wasn't still like mature enough to maybe be in a relationship. So like I said, we met outside of a convenience store. My friend Jody was visiting me, and she actually lived about almost like 30-45 minutes away from me. She came home with me on the bus, and she and I went for a walk, and we're walking by the convenience store at the same time he's walking out. And so I was like, oh, he's cute. And of course, if you guys knew her, like, you would be like, oh, okay. But knowing her, like, I should not have told her that, because she was like, hey boy, my friend thinks you're cute. She sucks. But he wound up coming over to us, and we exchanged numbers. And then I don't think it was the first night, but maybe the next night he called, and I was like, oh my God, he called, oh my God. So I was so excited because I thought he was so cute. He looks like John B. Well, I feel like he looks like John B. You younger millennials probably don't know who John B is, but Swoopy Whoopy is mixed with Black, white, and Native American. So he's got like a mixed, obviously, look to him. And he reminded me of John B, like the way he used to like shave Anyway, I'm not gonna reminisce too much on that, but that was what I felt like when I was a kid, is that, oh my God, it's like John B, and like, I love that song, they don't know about us. And it was funny because that wound up being very fitting for our relationship as well. But anyway, so me and Shooby Booby started talking, started hanging out, and he met my parents and everything, and things were good for the most part. And then all of a sudden, he just ghosted me. Just for no reason at all. Like, I felt like things were okay. Like, I had met some of his family, he had met my family, he came over all the time. Like, I thought things were good, but I don't know, like all of a sudden he just ghosted me. And so that was really pretty traumatic. Like I said, considering what I had just came out of, that situation, you know, was very similar. So he just stopped talking to me completely, no communication, a call, he's not home, yada, yada, yada. So I want to say maybe a month went by or so, and he actually, it was so weird how all this came about too. It was so very strange. He actually worked at the same nursing home that my sister did, and his sister worked there as well. It was weird how we just, you know, ended up meeting, but then our lives are actually a little bit entangled with one another. So I talked my sister into taking me to the nursing home, and I like wrote this total Dear John letter to him. And so I don't want to say he called me right away, but he called me maybe like a few days to a few weeks later. He probably thought I was a psycho, but it wasn't that I was psycho. I was just so young, and I just had no idea how to even handle or approach the situation. I didn't know what was going on. I'm a closure person, so it's absolutely the worst thing in life for someone to just stop talking to me, because I'm gonna be like wondering like, why, like what happened, like what should I do? So gave him this letter. I can't even begin to even think about the embarrassing things that were probably in this letter. Like, I would never want to see this letter again in my life. I would probably just die. So he called and we started hanging out again. And then I think it happened again a couple months later. So crazy, like he would just dip in and out of my life. My parents were freaking out because when he was in my life, like he would call drunk at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, just like crazy. My parents are just absolutely just floored by this, and so it started getting really bad. So we had a couple increments of time where we just stopped talking for a while. And then I want to say the summer after I graduated high school is when we really just picked back up and we started dating officially again. And that was pretty consistent for the rest of the time. So like another 1.5 years, 2 years or so. Things were fine with us. It was a little bit rocky because he kind of was moving back and forth between his family members, and I don't really know why. Doesn't really matter to me, but that was just a little bit hard because his brother lived really close to me, right around the corner, so I could like stalk him. And I definitely did. That was another hugely embarrassing thing. I used to totally go for walks and like just like go and like peep out and see like if he was there when he was like ghosting me. I'm not proud of any of this. I was an emotional teen. But so we actually started talking again. Things were fine for a while. My parents, once I graduated high school though, decided we're moving to Florida. Sucks to be you. Because it was basically like, stay here or go with us. And I was barely 18 years old and I didn't know how to do life by myself. So I made this plan, which my mom was like, oh, just take a year off off of college and, just work and this and that. Worst thing I felt like I could have ever done. But anyway, so a couple months later, we ended up moving to Florida. So I had to say goodbye to Swoopy Whoopie for a period of time, which was a little bit hard. We still talked on the phone every day. It was like, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? Got to Florida, absolutely was hating life. Florida's gorgeous, by all means. I will give them credit for that, but it just wasn't me. I went to Walmart and folks were wearing their pajamas, and I went home practically in tears, Daddy, they're just not like me here. I was 18, I still went shopping every week because I had a job since I was 16. I actually had 2 jobs after I turned 18 and graduated high school. So, I had my own fundage and I was shopping and dressing and always having my hair done. And, I had a ratchet period of, if you could fast forward to these years, Reese was wearing micro braids and I had my eyebrow pierced and I just got into tattoos when I turned 18. You're young and you just don't think about these things, but anyway, so in Florida, this is not me. this is not gonna work at all. This is just not okay. Nothing against Southerners. However, you have to understand, I'm setting the scene for you guys of being an 18-year-old New Yorker coming to the South right after she graduates high school, leaving her friends, leaving everything she ever knew, and I'm trying to fit in this completely different world. I mean, have you guys ever seen that Sonic commercial where they're like, name a different planet? And the guy said, Florida. He was onto something. He's definitely onto something. So I decided after maybe 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks or so of being gone, I moved back to Buffalo because I can't do this. And I miss Shroopy Whoopie, so I definitely needed to go back and be with him. So I moved back to Buffalo and I'm living with my older sister. She's about 5 years older than me. I have 2 sisters. One of them lived in Florida, which is why my parents retired there. And then the other one stayed in Buffalo along with my brother. So I had a little bit of a support system there. So I went back to Buffalo to live with her. Wound up getting a job that absolutely changed my life. So I really feel like God was really working to set me up where I needed to be and have the experiences that I needed to have in every aspect other than my relationships. Like I said, I really feel like my downfalls were my relationships. So I feel like he was setting me up for what my future was going to entail. Started working with people that have intellectual and developmental disabilities. Absolutely loved it. Fell in love with them. I was working at a group home with 5 autistic males. I just felt like I don't know, I had my aha moment going there, and I felt like that was the job that changed my life and set the tone for what I went on to major in college and ultimately graduate from and everything. Ended up stay in that field for a very long time. So it was great. I just absolutely adored them. So I got that job right away. My sister actually referred me to them because she was working there. Swoopy Whoopie, I can't even remember where he was living when I got home, but we pretty much just picked back up where we left off because I had a car, and so at that point, him kind of moving around from place to place wasn't really a big deal. Because I could drive now, I had freedom, yay! Isn't that what every 18-year-old strives to have? So I came back, I had a car, I had a job, and you know, things like seemed like they were falling into place. So although it seemed like everything was falling into place, I have this really huge issue that I really didn't know was as big as it was. But Swoopy Whoopie was definitely, he just was not as mature as I would have liked for him to be. I feel like I've always been pretty mature. My third, fourth grade teacher told me I was too serious. So I really feel like there's some truth to that. I don't know, I can't shake it. Like, I've always been pretty responsible and things like that. So he was the polar opposite of me, completely different. So I don't know, I guess I just overlooked all of the red flags, the drinking, which I mean, really went into being an alcoholic, you know, for the most part. And it caused a lot of grief for me and for him, because I couldn't even really build a solid foundation with him, because how can you take somebody seriously? How can you have a, you know, like meaningful conversation with somebody that's, you know, typically buzzed or drunk or, you know, whatever when they call you? And that was typically the case. So that was pretty hard. I mean, here I am working, you know, 40 to 50, 60 hours a week, because I was about them doubles when I was a kid. And he, you know, was barely working or not really keeping a job. Sorry, my battery said that it was only at 20%. Another reason why I gotta keep this quick, or try to rather. This is a long story, I know, I'm sorry. So yeah, so that was kind of like the tone that was set, like me feeling like I'm trying to have my life together, and him over here kind of dragging me down a little bit. And it sucks to say that, because I mean, I really did care about him, and I really do feel like he genuinely cared about me, and like we're still cool, we keep in touch like every so often. So, you know, everything's good. Like, I understand he was young. I understand that, you know, he just was not in the best place. I understand that. I don't fault him. I'm not mad at him. You know, he's apologized to me in the past, and, you know, we're all good. You know, all my exes have had to apologize to me at some point. There's just, anyway, so two big things that went on with me and Swoopy Whoopie. Number one, I went to Florida so that I could visit my parents, and I let him keep my car so that he could, I don't know, have a car. I still don't think that he was working at that point, but you know, like, I'm being a good girlfriend and I'm gonna be gone for a week, so instead of leaving my car at the airport or having somebody else drop me off, like, why don't you drop me off, and then you know, that way you can pick me up. So whatever, big mistake basically. So I'm in Florida trying to have a good time with my family, and I find out that Swoopy Whoopie got pulled over and got arrested, and my car was impounded. So I'm in Florida just feeling completely helpless, and I'm having to, you know, try to rearrange like money and things like that, because I'm on vacation and I'm spending money, and I have to come back and get my car from the impound because, you know, he was being stupid and drinking and driving, which, I mean, is completely, in my opinion, you know, total disrespect for me and what I have going on. Like, he knows I'm hustling, he knows that I'm working hard, he knows that I go to work every single day, you know, practically with like one day off. A lot of the times I was about my money, and he just really crapped on me, in my opinion. So come back, and my two best friends like come pick me up from the airport and had to take me to go get my car from being impounded, and so that really sucked. So that started like the wheels going in my mind finally about like, this is not okay, this is not right, this is not good. Like, you know, like, what are you getting from this? Like, you're giving everything and you're getting nothing. Like, that's how I was feeling at that point, finally. So number two, second thing that Swoopy Whoopie did that was just the nail in the coffin was one night, and I worked 3 to 11, 2 to 10 type shift. So one night he calls me to come from my way out job to his way out house to pick him up, to take him way back to his mom's house. And he gets in my car. He's being real weird. And he's like, kind of like chewing on his shirt a little bit. And I didn't know what was going on at the time, but he was just being odd. And it was like divine intervention, because we're driving and, you know, street lights. So we get to a stop sign or stoplight, I can't remember. And the street light hit his neck like perfectly. And Swoopy Whoopie had hickeys all over his neck. Talk about devastation. So I am 19 years old and my boyfriend is cheating on me, which, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't really have been surprised. I mean, there's just so many red flags about him and our relationship and the seriousness of, you know, it, because like I said, I was really a lot more mature than he was. And so there was a lot of tears and a lot of questions, and as far as I can remember, my questions never really actually got answered. But at the same time, I feel like it was so shocking that I like blacked out, like drove him home and like just drove off way back to my house, which is like 30 minutes, you know, so his house was totally out of the way. Like just crying, tears and tears and tears, and listening to Ashanti, like, you know, just like just listening to Foolish and just thinking how stupid I was and just how horrible I felt and just how wrong he had been doing me. So as I'm driving down the interstate in Buffalo, getting back to my house probably like midnight or later, you know, bumping Ashanti through all my tears, singing, when I get the strength to leave you, always tell me that you need me, and I'm weak 'cause I believe you, and I'm mad because I love you, so I stop and think that maybe you could learn to appreciate me, but it all remains the same, that you ain't never gonna change. Through all my tears, I'm singing this song and feeling like she is speaking to my soul. Foolish was my jam. Like, that was on repeat for a long time. So that was pretty much the turning point. I talked to my friends about it, and you know, they were trying to give me advice. I wasn't there about to talk to my parents about it because all I was gonna hear was, I told you about that boy. So I was just left feeling stupid and dumb and, you know, pretty helpless. And it was, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, definitely a lot more than what I'm explaining on the video, but those are like the kind of key points. And what I feel like was my downfall with him, mainly in relationships in general with me being this age, was I got saved when I was 16 and I was going to church, and you know, I felt like I was learning about God and I was listening to Christian music and I was actually getting into it. because I finally found, like, I feel like my place. Because while my mom was trying to force me to go to church, and I just didn't like the type of churches that she went to. And that's what I realized when I found a church that I actually did like. I was going with my friend Jotty that I was telling you guys about, and it just opened my eyes, like literally, to new music and a new environment. And then I moved, to Florida, tried to come back. I wasn't rooted anywhere. I didn't have anybody, else that was in church. None of my other friends were really Christians, except for some that I really just didn't talk to on a regular basis with anymore. So it was really hard. Like, I would watch, like, programs on Sundays when I would go into work, like, and everyone's still sleeping at the group home. I'd watch those on my own and, just try to learn. It's like I was grasping for things, but at the same time, like, my whole life was so consumed and distracted by this boy. And it was really bad. I mean, I was in a really bad place, and it made me make other bad decisions because of it. Like, because he was doing all these things and I was so emotional about them, and I was young, so I had other dudes in my ear too, like, hey girl, you ain't got to take that, right? You better than that, right? So you know how they do. I'm sure everybody can relate to those situations when you have a man and, he's messing up, you let people know, and then it's like vultures start coming out. So that's exactly what happened with somebody at work, and that's actually going to be part of my next video. But like I said, I was young, and I let someone start talking in my ear about, oh, you don't need that, and this and that, and you can do better, and all that. And oh my gosh, like, so foolish. So it was just not a really good situation for me to be in. And I mean, it didn't necessarily get any better because then I had Shwooby Wooby on one end, and then I had, I'm going to call him Bear, on the other end. And I was just really overwhelmed because I was making decisions because Shwooby Wooby wasn't doing what he needed to do. But at the same time, like, two people did not make the situation any better to manage. So long story short, I ended up moving back to Florida with my parents to finish school, and it sucked because it's something I didn't want to do. But at the end of the day, I felt like, what could I do? Like, I had to get away from the situation. I had to get away from both of them. It was a lot. I was 20 years old when I moved to Florida, and I felt like I had been through so much. And maybe not as much as most, but I mean, to me, it was a lot. And, I'm still trying to find myself. So every bad experience was, lessons I was learning, but at the time, they just seemed like the end of the world. So I ended up moving back to Florida. Me and Shwooby Wooby, kind of kept in contact for a while. Still more drunken phone calls, here and there. But of course, eventually things fizzled with us, and we pretty much went our own separate ways. That's pretty much the end of us. And so nothing terribly traumatic, I guess, happened with that situation. But I mean, it was just a huge testament of, like, me just not doing, again, like, what God wants me to do. I mean, he definitely was not God's best for me. And that was what the issue was. Like, I'm searching for something, I'm searching for this person, and I should have been searching for God. And it's hard for me to think about that now because I feel like I wasted a lot of time in these bad relationships, and I was looking for the wrong things. And I can't even blame my dad because I had a great dad, so I had zero daddy complexes. But I don't know, I just was such an emotional person and such a loving, caring, I want to take care of people personality. And I felt like it was to my detriment, because then I did get into these situations where I felt like I had to take care of these people. Like I had boyfriends that I was, essentially like mothering. And that was not my job. So, like I said, definitely hard lessons learned. A lot of things could have been avoided. But being young, you definitely don't have the kind of perspective that you do. When you're older, you can look back and, say, well, dang, like I should have got out of that situation sooner. Like I should have been smarter. Like I should have, had more value in myself. And so those were the things that I wish that I could take back. And like I said, instead of, searching for myself with a man, I wish that I had rooted myself better. But at the same time, I feel like I didn't know. Like I was young, I was new to being a Christian. I didn't really understand it. I was searching for God. I was trying to seek him out, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't have the proper foundation. And it's sad because I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like I just could have avoided so much. And essentially, that's the reason why I wanted to make this channel, is because I feel like I went through things so that hopefully I can share with other women, especially young girls, that, feel like these situations are okay or they're normal. Like this was not a normal situation. Like dating an alcoholic was not a normal situation. Dating somebody that takes you for granted, dating somebody that cheats on you, like not normal. So that was the whole reason why I wanted to make this channel, is hopefully to share my experiences so that other women, one, know they're not alone, and then two, help young women know that they need to set boundaries, and you need to do it sooner than later. Because I just had a lot of failed relationships, and it's just, I don't know, looking back on it, it's sad because I can see the horrible mistakes I was making, and I could see why, God put me in these situations, why they didn't work out. They were never meant to work out. And, obviously that's a retrospective perception, is that they were never meant to work out. And I was trying to force, this boy to grow up and be somebody that he wasn't. And it just wasn't possible. So, I mean, really, I'm playing myself, and I don't blame him, because I was smarter than that, and I was better than that, and I should have acted like it. So, in closing about this whole story, my best advice to young girls and women in general are to set boundaries, to not compromise yourself, and to make sure that you are always, having people around, any type of support system, to ensure that you don't stumble, to have somebody else to bounce things off of, a older woman, a mentor, your parents, if they're, in the Lord as well. But it's like I didn't really have anyone speaking good things into my life at the time. Not about this situation, because I was isolated from my family because it was embarrassing. Like I wasn't gonna tell them they were right. I wasn't, wanting to tell them that, things were worse than they thought. So it was really hard having to face, quote unquote adult, situations by myself. And in this situation, I felt like I couldn't go to my parents. I felt like, no, I couldn't talk to my grandmother about it. And you know, whoever else, you know, even though my mom and my dad went to church, my, you know, grandma and my aunts, uncles, all of them were in a church, like, yeah, I could have talked to somebody about it, but I didn't. And I implore, you know, younger people, or, you know, even women my age, you know, in their 30s, and maybe you've never been married, and, you know, you're trying to be, or, you know, maybe you're divorced like me too, or whatever. But I think it's, you know, to your benefit to make sure that you always have somebody. You know, of course, you know, your main go-to person is going to be God with whatever situations you're in and whatever struggles you have. But I think, like, especially if you're younger, having an older woman to mentor you is definitely beneficial. And I feel like I just really didn't have that at the time, and that was where I went wrong. I didn't know enough about God and, you know, his word, and, you know, what that meant for my life and where I was supposed to kind of go with that and take it. So anyway, I hope this video helps someone out there. I didn't mean to get all emo on you guys. But I mean, it just hurt my heart to, you know, remember ways or times that I feel like I was most hurtful to God, and not just, you know, my family or my friends or anybody else, but, you know, my relationship with God definitely suffered during these times and years and things like that, and with these relationships with men. And if nothing else, I learned a lot, and that's what I'm trying to share and instill in other women. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel for future videos. I am going to drop a new video every Monday, so set your alerts so that you'll know. Next time is going to be about Bear. I think the title is probably going to be Never Date Somebody You Work With. So if you've been there before, you have a horrible dating story of dating a coworker, definitely stay tuned for that. But thank you guys. So if you watched my last video, you know who Homeboy is. He had an interesting reaction to my video. He said he would like to do a rebuttal because naturally there's two sides to every story. I don't know what on earth he could possibly say that was different than what I said, but I think that we should call him out. If you guys would like to see a video of me filming myself talking to him and getting his comments and reaction to my video, comment in my video comments, #homeboy, and let's call him out. I think he's too chicken, but it's worth a try.